The top quarterback in the class of 2026, Jared Curtis, is down to 2 schools. You got Georgia, you got Oregon. We're going to talk about the impact of this decision as to what it could mean from a college football perspective for both schools. Before we do that, though, if you're a Georgia fan, you're an Oregon fan, whoever you're a fan of, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. We appreciate y'all being dialed in, talking college football all year round, talking recruiting, talking portal, talking the games. College football doesn't stop. This show does not stop either. So we appreciate you being dialed in, like I already mentioned. There's no way to downplay the impact of landing the top quarterback in any cycle, but much less this one with the way the college football playoff is trending. We've said this for a long time. If you have a superior quarterback when it gets to the 12-team field, 14-team field, 16, whatever, how many ever teams it is, when you get to that spot, that's where the quarterback makes the difference for you, in our humble opinion, because of the fact that the roster talent at that point in time in playoff football should be pretty comparable. Like, you put Oregon and Georgia on the field together, they're both going to have a lot of dudes. It may come down to which team has a bigger dude at quarterback, the guy who's able to make the play to ultimately win the football game, if and when that doesn't, of course, happen. So Jared Curtis could be the difference maker for you, could have national title caliber impact, as does every high-level quarterback, but specifically the top quarterback in the class of 2026 as it stands right now. So let's start with Oregon. Oregon's in a unique spot when we talk about them in the complexion of modern college football, because they're an elite team. They're in an elite tier. They won the Big Ten last year. I think Dan Lanning's just getting started. The brand is massive, but there's also, for us as the college football public, this one box that's left unchecked, and that is winning the national championship. Now, that's the Oregon brand, and that's not something that Dan Lanning, I think, necessarily has to, live with when it comes to the reputation around Oregon. But I do think that when we talk about where they're at the quarterback position, you hear a lot about, different like entrepreneur, influencer types really talk about 2 streams of income, passive income, active income. Like, I don't pretend to be an entrepreneur, influencer, connoisseur, but I do think that when you talk about the quarterback position for Oregon, they've had 2 streams. They've had the portal, they've had the high school level, and they have crushed it at the portal level. You got 2 individuals that you brought into your program, and you had 2 Heisman finalists. Now, Dante Moore is going to be the 3rd portal quarterback in line for them, going to start next season, and Tez Johnson believes that he's going to be a Heisman finalist next year. So the point I'm trying to make here is you already feel like Oregon is, in a lot of ways, a quarterback destination. But if Oregon were able to land a Jared Curtis, and then he propels them to have massive success, and they win a national title and so on and so forth, then you're able to really be stamped as a developmental quarterback spot. Like, you're able to take a guy from high school, take him through the ranks, go win a national championship, win the Big Ten, all those things. Like, that in itself, I think, would be a line of demarcation for what Oregon is as a whole and the way they're trending under Dan Lanning. Now, winning the national championship would obviously be a massive box to get checked, as I mentioned before, but even just to the recruitment in of itself and landing Jared Curtis. When Dan Lanning had his first game at Oregon as the head coach, it was against Georgia. It was in Atlanta. It was not pretty. Georgia wiped the floor with them. And I will never forget hearing Kirby Smart after that game say, "We won this game because we had better players than Oregon." And he didn't mean it in a disrespectful way. He was just saying, that's the fact of the matter. That's where we're at right now if we're Georgia versus where Oregon is right now. And if they were to go beat Georgia on the recruiting trail for the top quarterback in America as it stands right now, just the story arc of Dan Lanning getting to Oregon and beating out Georgia for the top quarterback, like that just in itself, I think, would be, again, a signal fire as to where Oregon is right now. If we needed any other indication as to the way that program is trending on the West Coast, that would do a lot, I think, just optically for where Oregon is in the mind of college football fans. And then, as I mentioned again, the football aspect of having a dude who can pull the trigger for you and potentially get you to a spot to where you're competing for and winning national championships, which Oregon obviously expects to do now under Dan Lanning. On the Georgia side, I think that the impact for them, you could convince me that it maybe is, I want to be careful how I say this. I think that there is a very, very large impact here for Georgia if they are to land a Jared Curtis. And the reason why I feel that way is look at how Georgia's operated. From a roster level, they use the portal, but we haven't seen them go out and land a top portal quarterback, to this point at least. Now, they've obviously participated in the portal, but it's not something they've really done quite as heavily as maybe Oregon has. Why? Well, because Georgia has a bunch of top 5, top 3 classes they've stacked together, so they don't need to go to the portal as heavily. But the point I'm trying to make here is, if you're not going to go heavily to the portal to go get your quarterback, then you need to be able to develop and elevate and produce high-level quarterback prospects in-house. And to be fair to Georgia now, Carson Beck, I think what he was the year before last, where he was an all-SEC quarterback, a lot of us expected him to be the top pick in this year's upcoming draft, and last year went how it went. But if you go land a Jared Curtis and you develop him and he has success, kind of the same thing was said about Oregon, just the way that would continue to evolve the conversation around Georgia as a quarterback destination. Like Georgia in and of themselves now, yes, they want to be tough on the line of scrimmage. Yes, they want to play great defense. But if y'all, I know y'all have, but the college football casual fans may not know this. Georgia throws the football a lot. Like Georgia has thrown the football north of 30 times the last couple of seasons. They want to be a team that attacks downfield. And some of that I think is who Mike Bobo is. Some of that I think is Kirby Smart understanding the way that college football is trending as a whole. Like, yes, you got to win up front, but long gone are the days where you roll out there with a game manager at quarterback and win the SEC. Now, there's exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, that's how it gets done. You got to have the top quarterback in the conference to go compete for the conference title, and in that way, I suppose, get a bye in the first round of the college football playoff. So to round this point out, landing Jared Curtis and allowing him to reach his potential, which we think is extremely high here at On 3, that further emphasizes the idea of Georgia not just being a destination for NFL draft prospects, but becoming a true quarterback destination. High school level, transfer portal level, doesn't matter. Being a quarterback destination for Georgia, I think is very, very dangerous firepower for Kirby Smart to have, because you know they're going to recruit well everywhere else. They're going to recruit well at quarterback as well, but once Kirby Smart's able to go produce a first-round draft pick at quarterback, that's where things, I think, really start to get dangerous, like I mentioned, for the Bulldogs and for that whole building they have going on out there in Athens, Georgia. So he's taking visits in March to both Oregon and Georgia. I would expect we will, I know we're going to cover this thing to the nth degree. Josh Newberg on the On the Recruits channel, the Inside Scoop, has a sit-down interview with Jared Curtis already on the channel over there before this became public. These were his final 2 schools. So go check that out. Go check out just who Jared Curtis is overall in that conversation. But, hey, we appreciate y'all being dialed in. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know. Who is it more important for, Oregon or Georgia, playing the top quarterback in 2026? We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.